Sarah from TrustPilot, Lucas from SiteGainer, who's going to tell you all about the latest technology in A/B testing on site. I will do a deep dive on Google Ads and how you can get more out of that. And Per will show you some of the latest insights from Google. So super happy for this afternoon, and I hope you will take with you a lot of new ideas for how you can grow your business and take more data-driven decisions. And we're going to end this session for all of you who are here in the room with a really great panel discussion together with Baby Shop, 3, and Jetpack. So for all of you who are here at Google, I think that will be a really interesting part to listen into on the end. So with that, we're a bit late now, but Per will run the intro. Then I will talk more about Google Ads and how you can get more sales and how you can grow your business faster on Google Ads. Then Lucas will take you through some of the advanced A/B testing features that they are doing, and also share some insights on how they collaborate with Baby Shop. Really interesting part. And then Sarah will give you the latest about the trust economy and how you can build more trust with your customers. So with that, I would like to get started with Per, and big welcome to all of you again.
Great, let's kick it off. Data-driven decision making. I think this is a situation that probably many of us can relate to. A couple of years ago, this might seem a little bit sort of extreme, but today, many of us, so the first thing we do is reach for our phone. It's just a fact. Screen times are up 4 or 5 hours on a daily basis, and it's just a fully integrated device in our life. So from a consumer perspective, this means that the consumer behaviors are completely changing. Consumers today are not just expecting their needs to be met, but also that their needs are anticipated. They are curious, they are increasingly demanding, and very impatient. They expect to have an experience that is personalized without any effort on their part, and they want to make sure they can act and get what they want when they want it. So this is what we're seeing when we're looking at the search queries. Today, consumers are not just going to Google to answer a specific question or search for a specific product. They're going there for inspiration. They're going there for to get help. We're seeing queries, for example, in this case, queries for search for shopping list for example, baby stuff, up 180% over the past 2 years. So curated content up, demanding as well. We know that consumers that go onto a website, if the site is not loading within 3 seconds, they will abandon it. Everything needs to work. It needs to be in a personalized fashion from the very start. And searches like near me, up 450% over the past 2 years. And lastly, impatient. If you cannot get the stuff that you want and it's not near you and you need to order it, searches for same-day delivery, up 200%. So once again, curious, demanding, impatient. So what does this mean for all of us that are serving these customers? Essentially, it means that we need to have, we need to use the data, we need to use technology to be able to personalize an experience at scale. And what's really interesting is, how is this looking today? What are the, sorry, I need to be here for the mic. How is this looking at from a maturity level if you look across Europe? So this is a study that was done by Boston Consulting Group, looking at data-driven maturity levels. 4 different buckets. The first one is nascent, where sort of campaign execution is quite basic. You're using some external data, but it's really no connection with ROI. So that's the first step. Next step is that you're owning some of your data. There's some automated buying involved, but still single channel optimization and not the same direct link with ROI. Third bucket, more integrated data across multiple channels with some demonstrated link towards an ROI. And the last bucket, which is really a dynamic optimization towards a single customer outcome across multiple channels. So pretty interesting. I mean, the good news here is, of course, that 49%, almost 50%, is actually in the third bucket. But only 2% are really utilizing the full potential of data-driven marketing, and that's why we're here today. So what this research also showed is the ones that really are doing this, the bottom line impact is significant. 20% increase in revenue, 30% potential decrease in cost. So with that, I'll hand it over to our experts. It's pretty interesting. Keywordio's solution, just as a fun fact, when we're talking about scale and talking about automation, they're running about 10 million adjustments on their customers on a monthly basis, which means more than 100,000 on a daily basis. So that's the power of scale, and I'll let Jonas exactly explain how they do it.
Thanks, Per. And yeah, as Per said, I'm going to tell you a bit more what we actually do at Keywordio. But we really build technology that lays on like a layer on top of Google Ads, and it's specialized for e-commerce companies to be able to get more out of it. And I want to start with a story, and this is one of my favorite movies. So this is my little Otto. And he's like 1 year old here. He doesn't even speak. And I probably like technology more than the average person. But I would never come up with the idea to start playing with QR codes with him. But that is what we are doing now in the Swedish school system. So we're introducing QR codes for kids when they are this young. So they start out in the morning, they play in the park, they find out what bird they're looking for, they want to know how they sound, and then when they get in the afternoon, they have a QR code for that bird, and then they can look up and they can listen to the birds again. So I think that is really impressive. And when they are collecting the kids in the morning, they're actually playing with a programming robot. And I'm really impressed by this. And imagine what Otto and his friend will come up with in terms of ideas and innovations when they grow up compared to what we are doing. So I think that technology will never move as slow as it is moving today. And I think we will have so much more insights and data with Otto's and his friends out there. So I think that is really interesting to see. So what we are really doing at Keywordio, we invest a lot in technology. And right now, we actually have more than 20 developers just focusing on the Google Ads API. And this is some of the amazing people that we have in the team. And that is not Google Ads people who are specialized in running Google Ads and make manual changes. These are really core developers that specialized on building more technology. So we can do the 10 million changes every month. And that is really what we are making a lot of investments into, and then combining that with specialists. So that is how we build Keywordio. And we have a unique offer for this event today. And I'm not going to spoil this, but telling you all the story of it. But it will be an introduction and implementation of some of the latest machine learning technology on your Google account for free. So I will tell you about that in the end of the presentation. So, data-driven decision for e-commerce on Google Ads. What we typically see, I meet a lot of e-commerce companies. I see the headwinds and the tailwinds. So, of course, if you have the perfect price, you're speaking to the right person at the right moment with the right product. Of course, you're going to sell that product, and that's going to accelerate your business. That's the easy part. But then you have typically a lot of headwinds as well. So you have a lot of insights from a Google Ads account, for example. You have budget limitation. Nobody has unlimited budget. And of course, it's also a challenge to collaborate, both within a team, within external companies that you collaborate with, and also human-to-machine collaboration. It's also a challenge. So those are the headwinds that I will speak about now, and see what we are doing for trying to reduce the headwinds so you can accelerate faster. So the business insights, it's really how you can understand more of the intent that you can actually find in Google Ads data. So I assume that many of you are using Google every day, and for all of you who are Google Ads specialists here, of course you know how it works. But typically, when you search on Google, there's a lot of interesting insights that you can get out of it. So most of the time, we know what age and gender on that person who is searching, for example, or in that general category. We know what types of products or categories you are selling, but people click on, but they don't buy, for example. We have a lot of interesting performance data in there that you could use that is sometimes even more worth than your own backend system data, because you have a lot of clicks on a lot of features that you have there. So there's really a gold mine here that you could start digging into. And if we start looking at, say that the telco company, this is how the search queries look over a year for a telco company in general. Actually, when Apple launched their iPhones, that is a more important month in terms of search queries than Black Friday. Of course, Black Friday could be really important for many e-commerce companies, but if you're in the telco space, this is the big spike in the searches. This is just a general view, but of course, then you really need to be on top on those moments. And for example, also understand, like I said, like how does your different personas or age group work with your offer, for example. So if you know here that from 35 to 44-year-old, that you would assume that you can see that the blue staple here are low, that the cost per conversion is a lot lower, then okay, what can you do to actually allocate more of your budget there to get more of your sales, for example? You have a lot of interesting insights that you can dig out from Google Ads. And I also see a lot of e-commerce companies split the traffic from e-commerce into brand and non-brand, for example. Just given this example, so if you're searching for, let's say, 3 iPhone, that you want to buy an iPhone XR from 3, for example. So it's really a brand search. Of course, then somebody has already taken the decision to probably buy that from 3, then it's the easy case. But just splitting it up in brand and non-branded, it's often a bit too wide. You need to be more detailed than that. So look at the different types of search queries we have here for in the pyramid. So on the top, you have the branded searches. Of course, you're going to have high return of investment on them. But then as you go lower, okay, do it make sense to go all the way down to phone? Well, it could be someone that has broken a phone, or it could be another question. So probably it's not worth going down there. And that is not about performance, how your offer is working. It's more about like understanding the intent behind the search and who is searching and when they're searching. That is really the key. And to be able to do this at a detailed level, that's really where you can make a differentiation from your competition in this space. And I know that a lot of people here work with e-commerce. And for example, when you have this big offer and you work really hard to make sure that everything is working, and then this is actually one of the movies that we made from what it could look like from behind the scenes on an iPhone launch. And Benjamin, I think you know how it feels to be behind the scene. Well, you all know the feeling when you really, you have prepared everything, you really pushed your best offer, and then you just have to make sure that everything is working. And of course, the days when everything goes right, of course, those are the happy days. But I know that there's a lot of pressure on all of you who's working really hard with offers. And of course, with the black sales or black weekends coming up, of course, that's going to be a really important season for many of you to make sure to capture as much as possible of that potential. So that is what we are very proud of, what we have done. We have been working with 3 now for almost a year, and we have managed to increase on a really important timeline here, that we have managed to increase the number of transactions with 50%, and at the same time cut the cost per order of almost 60%, which is something that we are really impressed by, actually, when we managed to do both at the same time. And it's been a really close collaboration with the team at 3, but we're really proud to share those numbers with you. So budget limitations. Why do we sometimes have budget limitations? And how do you actually take action on this? So if you go to a fish market and you want to buy the salmon, and then suddenly everybody wants to buy the salmon, of course the price of the salmon is going to go up, right? And it's the same with the queries as well. If you have a lot of queries picking up and a lot of people want to bid on those, of course the price is going to go up. And suddenly, if you have a month when prices just go up on clicks, of course, then it's going to be more expensive for you to drive performance, right? That's how it works. And if you have that at the same time as some of your other channels maybe not going as you think, you probably can get the call from your manager that's saying, hey, we need to cut the budget by 20%. And if you are there on the 13th of February and then you get the order to cut the budget, what do you actually do then? Well, if you're a Google Ads specialist, then you need to go into account every day. You need to check, okay, let me reduce the cost here. Let me put some cutaway here. And how do you do that without cutting away too much potential revenue? That's the hard part. And to make sure that you always do that as efficient as possible. So you still have money for offer A, B, and C that you're going to run in the end of the month, for example. So what we did is that we have created software that go into the smallest pieces of Google Ads and make sure that we start cutting away where you have the less impact on revenue. So you can slide it down and say, okay, let's cut the budget by 20%. We don't want to do that, but we have to do it right now. Then you can do that automatically and still keep enough budget to have it for the end of the offers. And we can do it the other way around as well. Let's say that everything is going great and you want to boost it even more, then it's the same type of challenge. Like if you increase the budget by 50%, where are you going to spend it? And if you're going to sit and monitor this manually, it's going to take a lot of time that you're not going to have enough time to actually solve the big problems. And that is the way how we develop products to work as a tool on Google Ads to solve these kind of questions. So you can pretty much slide your budget up and down. And this is something that we have worked really close with Let's Deal, which is one of the biggest marketplaces for time-limited offers in Sweden. And we have managed to increase revenue from their new customers by 320% year on year, and at the same time increase profitability. So this is really also something that when we really can find the right spot and be really efficient in how you spend the budget, these are the type of performance that you could see when running Google Ads on this type of marketing. And the last part, it's about collaboration. And I said it's not only about collaborating within the team, between humans, it's also collaborating between human and machine as well. Because with a platform like Google Ads, there's so much data that you need to extract. And I like to ask the question to people that I meet, like, how did you feel when you open up Google Ads the first time? And I hear a lot of people saying like, yeah, it felt like it was overwhelming. It felt like walking into a Boeing 747 cockpit that I didn't know what to do. And if there's a lot of people feeling like that, of course, it's going to be hard to get out all the insights that you can actually get into your business from Google Ads. So typical, you have in November, December, you have the plannings for your Black Friday. Maybe you try to go with Singles Day this year. You have a couple of other important parts to come up. But really, how do you communicate during this? And how do you communicate with the customers? So I took this photo in Stockholm. So I walked by the store, Calcedonia. They had a great offer. It was 10 SEK for socks. Then I go into the site. They have an even better offer on some parts. It was 50% off on pretty much everything. But then I Google it, and it seems like they don't even run ads on that. Because, well, if I would Google and the organic results come up, I don't even see if they have a great offer or not. And we see a lot of e-commerce companies that doesn't take advantage when they do these great offers to make sure it is visible in one of the most important storefronts that they have, which is many times Google Ads. And if you just compare these to text ads, for example, so the top one, you don't have a clear offer, and on the bottom one, you have a clear offer. You also have a specific timeline. So we see that typically click-through rate can increase by almost 30% on the offers that are really clear. So when you do this, make sure that you run your offers all the way. And this is also something that we have created software to do. This is something that takes quite a lot of time to schedule your promotions, putting them down, putting them up in Google Ads. That's something we have created software to do. So you always make sure that you have your offers visible and you can extract all the potential of your offers. And the collaboration part. So like you have maybe a CMO, ecom manager, you have an agency, maybe you have an SM specialist, maybe you have some purchasing department that all can benefit from this data. And some use Slack, some use Office 360 to communicate. And this is something that that we think is going to be more and more important to get the information faster and easier accessible to everybody. So reports that we see, of course, if you get a weekly report or a manual report every month, or if you have a live dashboard, I think those are all good, but we think that it's going to be more instant on your phone all the time, typical like you chat with your best friends. If there's something you need to know instant, we think that you should have that information accessible. Or should you just have, for example, sit and wait to reply to your manager who asks questions about sales, for example? Maybe it's better to have a chat where you actually can extract pretty much all of the insights you have from Google Ads just by a Slack chat. So to summarize, what we see is really the headwinds is something you can turn to a big advantage for your business. And with more insights and business intelligence, you will be able to take better decisions with more collaboration and more tighter control in your team. We think that will be better. And handling the budget limitations when they arise, and be able to push when you have the opportunity to push more, for example. And that is something that we see is really the ones that really outperform. They do this really well. So to summarize, as I mentioned in the start, we build this type of technology, and then we manage it, and then we have Google Ads specialists that have contact with our customers directly. Like Oscar was on the floor that have done the last finishes on the big iPhone launch, which was a great success, for example. So that is really how we work. And this, as also like Per mentioned, it's being able to do like 93 million changes on the advertising for our customers last year. That cannot be done manually. It needs to have more technology and more data-driven decision to be able to adjust all of this. So that is really what we see is the way of the future to handle Google Ads. And the offer that we have for everybody who have signed up here today and also signed up on the webinar is that Google released what they call responsive search ads. And the search ad, that is the text ads that you see. So typically today you provide a headline 1, 2, and 3, and then you have a description line and then a URL. That's how you build up your text ads. But with the Google's new setup, you provide up to 15 headlines, and then you provide up to like 4 different descriptions. And then Google use their own machine learning algorithms to optimize, like in what order, how should they be positioned, and which one are performing the best. So you can tailor the message in the best possible way for your customers. And with one of our customers, they had somewhere around like 10,000 text ads on their account. So it was a big project actually just switching to this new version of ad format. So one of our specialists spent like 8 hours and was only able to do a couple of % of the account actually. And then we created software to do this implementation. And that is what we are giving away for free today. So if you would like to change for your extended text ads to RSA, responsive search ads, we can do that for you free for your whole account within 20 minutes. So I think that is a great offer. And from the studies and the tests that Google have seen is that this typically can increase your clicks and conversions by 10%. So with this, you will get the email afterwards. You can just reply to that and say, I would like to do the RSA offer. So with that, yes. No, so dynamic search ads, we have a question about dynamic search ad and responsive search ads. So dynamic search ad, that is based for, instead of trying to build text ads for all your page, dynamic search ads is a way to find all your potential that you don't have right now in the account. So this is more about what is the actually copy of the ad format, not about making sure that you have all your offers out there. So it's a great question. So with that, I would like to hand over the word to Lucas, who will tell you all about the latest trends in A/B testing for on-site. So, Lucas.
Hey, very good presentation, Jonas. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
That was great.
Yeah.
Hey, for the webinar people, I think I kind of have to wave here. How y'all doing? Hope you can hear us well. I'm Lucas. I'm the key account manager for SiteGainer. Very happy to be here today. See some familiar faces and a lot of new ones as well. And I thought, since Jonas and Per spoke about driving traffic, that I'd speak a bit about actually converting that traffic when you get on site. Before we get into that specifically, I don't know how many people know about SiteGainer from before. We're kind of semi-new, I guess. Wow, almost half the room. I'm very happy. But for those of you that don't know us, we are a Scandinavian CRO and A/B testing platform. We got offices in 6 countries, but our primary focus is definitely in the Nordics. So we've been working primarily with e-commerce companies. If you're way too small, you probably don't want to A/B test, or it's too early. So our focus has been companies of 10+ million euro in revenue per year. And the bigger you are, the more fun it is to A/B test. What makes us kind of unique? So we're a technical platform, but apart from that, we are also we've noticed a need in the Nordics for additional help apart from the technical platform. So basically, if we give somebody a license, they might or they may not have an actual process for working with CRO in-house. So we try to supply pretty much all of our clients with some type of strategical guidance in how to actually perform A/B tests at a good rate, and try to avoid kind of the pitfalls of what you can do. And even for the super advanced CRO teams that are running hundreds or 200 or thousands of tests a year, we feel that kind of agency part or getting somebody to talk to you about your A/B testing and CRO, or for those of you that aren't familiar with the abbreviation, conversion rate optimization, we feel that that's still a big part of what conversion rate optimization is. So if you have a tool, that's obviously really good, but the person behind the tool is the one that's actually going to make the changes. A tool can only make it more rapid. Today, I'll be talking about a case or some of the work that we've been doing together with one of our clients. They're here in the audience, Wilhelm and Marielle, who work at Baby Shop Group. They are the largest multi-channel children's clothing and products retailer in Europe. So basically sell kids' clothes. They're operating across more than 50 sites. And with 4 brands. So they got Baby Shop, and some of you might know Lekmer as well, Alex and Alexa, a UK brand, and Oi as well, with 2 I's. Currently operating primarily e-commerce. They are omnichannel, so they have some stores, but their primary focus is definitely e-commerce, running more than 1 billion SEK a year in annual turnover currently. Growing very rapidly, so I think you might be approaching 2 billion, but I'm not sure. But quite large for Nordic standards, at least. And Baby Shop came to us, I think it was summer 2018, to kind of accelerate their A/B testing program. These were some of the goals that they presented to us and that we together kind of agreed on to try to reach. The primary one was to basically eliminate guesswork from any site implementations. When you're changing your site, you basically come up with an idea, and then you kind of implement it and see if it works, and you don't really measure it in a lot of ways. So starting to eliminate that guesswork and actually measuring what the things you're doing, what impact they have, was the primary focus. And to put an actual number on this, we had a goal to test at least 30% of all the changes made to the website, and to reach an always-on status for conversion rate optimization through data-driven A/B testing. And the last one, is really important for us as well. And I met Wilhelm earlier this week and spoke about it. To create a test and experiment-driven culture within the company, to kind of take away the what we call the hippo syndrome within CRO, that the highest paid person in the room, their opinion is worth more than the people who are maybe actually working on the implementations on the site. So instead of kind of letting somebody with a mantle take all the decisions, you're actually finding ideas that way. Everybody can come up with an idea, but the company culture means that you're going to test it. You're not just going to implement anything.
When we started working, or when we were kind of scheming to get this working, we ran into some problems, or we had a couple of challenges that posed problems for getting this testing culture in place. They had a large amount of websites, and for any of you who have managed like 50 websites, it's tough work, definitely. And also a lot of languages. And specifically when working with the CRO, this can be quite a challenge, because if you're doing an A/B test, how many people are doing an A/B test today, by the way? All right, about 30% of the room raised their hand. For you, you probably ran an A/B test, and then if you have more than one site, then you got to kind of run it for the second market as well. So this definitely poses a problem within CRO. So this is something we had to deal with. And to this, they had a relatively small team in comparison, at least to the revenue. I think how many people are you today, Willem? Between a thumb and a... Front-end team is 10 people. Tech team is 10 people, but front-end is 3 people. 10 people in the tech team. So compared to 2 billion or 1 billion revenue, that's definitely quite a small team. So that was definitely a challenge. And development resources were definitely lacking. And I see this for a lot of Nordic companies. I've been working with us for 6 years, and I'd say about 70% of the people I run into within e-commerce have troubles with finding development resources, which is also kind of why we run the agency part. That's mainly what we do. We can help with ideation and hypothesis, but mostly we try to work with our clients. They usually have ideas. I think most of you in the room here today and the people listening in on the webinar, you probably got ideas to improve your website, but they're also put in a backlog of 200 other things. And so we try to kind of help with that development part to get more tests running. And another challenge, it's not really a challenge. It's more of a goal, but high ambitions and a small team, well, that obviously poses some troubles. So that's kind of what we had to deal with. Now, why do Baby Shop Group and a lot of other companies want to implement this type of testing culture? It's estimated that around 70% of the changes made on a website, now we're talking design or new functionality, or anything from changing a button color to adding a new functionality or new part of the checkout or delivery picker or whatever. 70% of those changes either hurt conversion rates or actually give no uplift at all. Now, this is pretty depressing. How many people in the room are doing a sprint or a deploy more than once a month? Every second month, like you're actually making improvements to your site. Okay, not everybody, but most of you. Well, that means that 70% of the things in those deploys may or may not actually hurt you. So they're probably or likely to actually cancel out the positive stuff you're doing as well. And it's really hard to measure this without A/B testing. So A/B testing, in a sense, it's been present for 20 years. It comes from medical studies from the beginning, where you try different medicines. And it might seem old-fashioned, but it is still today the only or the best way to actually measure the impact of stuff you're doing. Because if you're changing your website now, and you go into Black Friday, next month you'll be converting better. It doesn't matter what you do with the site, just because you're cutting the prices by 50%. So actually identifying a 5% decrease in conversion rate from the implementation you just made is really difficult, or basically impossible, without A/B testing. And the way we kind of think about this, and I'm really happy that Jonas actually spoke about traffic just previously to this, because the way we kind of think about conversion rate optimization in relation to how people have been working in traffic is that for anybody running traffic, you have been working quite data-driven for a long time. You're not running a 500,000 Swedish kronor campaign without measuring if it actually gives you some type of ROI, and you're probably optimizing that type of campaign as well for the next month. So what Jonas and his team are doing is introducing AI to take that to the next step and to do it at a larger scale. But for conversion rate optimization, we're not really, at least not in the Nordics, we're not really at the point where that's where we are. It's rather that a huge amount of people are still doing implementations on their site on a day-to-day basis or weekly basis, and not measuring even 10% of those. So what we want to do is kind of introduce the same thought mentality of, when you do changes to your website that are obviously costing you money in implementation costs, test them. Work with it the same way you work with traffic. There's only two ways, basically, to drive revenue. Either you drive more traffic, or you convert that traffic at a better pace. So a process that we used when we started out Baby Shop, because obviously this all sounds fine and dandy. Let's test stuff. Let's make sure that the stuff we're doing actually works. It makes sense. So what we started out to kind of get this process, the process itself needs to be data-driven as well. So what we started out was by filling a huge hypothesis document. Basically, we went through all digital channels and tried to find leaks in GA primarily. Where are we losing money? What pages are not converting? Where are people moving? That type of stuff. We also did a heuristic analysis. We've done over 5,000 A/B tests in-house at SiteGainer, where we came up with the idea. So a lot of the time we can look at an e-commerce site and go, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, and put that stuff into an actual document, which is, it's basically a backlog of possible things we may want to test or just implement at some point. We can do qualitative and quantitative analysis in this case. In this case, we found so many ideas, we didn't really feel the need to do any user tests. It is something that we want to do down the line when we run out of hypothesis. But I'd say for most of our clients, finding ideas is it's not a problem. So we try to kind of focus on getting as many ideas as possible. And then we move on to the prioritization part, where we look at all the ideas we have in the document, or and we kind of just value these ones. We use a model called PXL, which is developed purely for A/B testing. It's a method of asking every hypothesis you have a set of questions. I'm not going to go through all of them because it's quite long, but it's questions like, is this test that you suggested running on a high traffic page, or is it on the blog page or the About Us page that nobody visits? If it's on the high traffic page, it gets a bunch of points. Are we adding something? Are we trying to increase user motivation? That type of stuff. So you ask a bunch of questions to the idea, and then you weigh that towards the development it would take to actually implement the change you're making. So in a lot of people, or a huge mistake I see from people starting with A/B testing, is they do huge tests that take hundreds of hours in implementation and analysis work to get started. While if you use an actual prioritization model, you may come up with at the bottom color test, even though it's super, super boring, it only takes like 30 minutes to set it up. So that may or may not be the better test to do in this case. And then basically you just produce as many tests as possible and always try to prioritize and fill up your hypothesis log by as many ideas as possible. Try to involve the organization as well. So somebody from customer service will definitely have good ideas. May not be the ones we're testing, but put them in the document at least. And when you're A/B testing, always make sure to keep proper documentation of what you're doing. It's really common that somebody quits and kind of the learning from an A/B test gets lost, and then you do the same mistake about a year later. So make sure to document everything and continuously improve and try to kind of speak to your company and see what you're doing and make sure that everybody's on board with what mistakes you're correcting and what improvements you're making. So for some tests that we actually performed during this year for Lekmer and Baby Shop and Alex and Alexa, I'm going to do some hand holding for this one as well. You're not going to know which one is the improvement that we developed and which one was the original for the test. But so on the screen now, we got two different variations. Variation A, where when you click the button to add something to your cart or to your varukorg in Swedish, a pop-up comes up, contrasting color for the CTA, asking you to go to checkout. And for the second one, we got kind of an inverted pop-up where a fold-out, a dark blue button folds out and asks you, do you want to go to the checkout? So, oh, sorry, audience camera. There we go. Hands up, who thinks the pop-up wins? Let's say 25-ish% of the room. And who thinks variation B wins? Very pleased with that. Pop-ups may be old-fashioned, but this one works really, really well on desktop. This actually outperformed the original by 3.5-ish%. And we're talking finalized orders. And Baby Shop or Lekmer has tens of thousands of orders every month. So this is obviously a huge impact on the last row, and all the traffic that Jonas and his team or Google or whoever are driving to the site is also going to get a better ROI. This test probably didn't take more than 10 hours to actually perform. So 3% uplift in conversion rate with finalized order for this test. Pretty epic. This you should test tomorrow if you haven't. Let's actually skip that one.
Sorry, just did you measure how many actually finalized the buy, or just how many went
Actually finalize the buy? And it's an interesting question as well. Sorry for the people on the webinar. I got a question if we measured actual finalized orders or just add to carts. The add to carts went up by 10%, but the actual finalized orders went up by 3.5%. Another question, sorry?
Did it affect the average order value?
I don't know the numbers in my head, but I'd be happy to sit down and look at it after. Wilhelm is also here. I'm not sure we can share the exact numbers for like how it differentiated, but we can definitely look at it after. It is something we measured, and it is something that we always pretty much measure in these types of tests. Whenever you're working with a discount or moving people along the funnel at a quicker pace, definitely measure that type of stuff. Another test. I'm going to do these quite quickly now, not dive into them. You can catch me after. I'm running a bit low on time. But we'll be here for a couple of hours. So just ask us. What we're doing here, though, is on one variation, we're trying to run kind of a, we call it quick shop functionality. You're on the category level, you're searching for products, and you find something that you click on. On variation A, it'll be kind of a smaller product page. You stay on the category page, you don't get redirected, but you stay there and you get to pick the size, and you can add it to cart straight from the category page. On variation B, we have kind of a more standard solution where if you click a product, you're redirected to the product page and you get all the product information associated with the product there. Gonna do audience camera again. Do you guys think the redirect or the quick shop one? Let's do A first, hands up. So probably 50% thinks that the quick shop one. And who thinks the other variation where you get redirected to the product page? About 50% there too, makes sense. I know numbers. In this case, the winner was the redirect. Interesting part of this, though, was we ran this across all markets. And this worked really, really well for the Nordic markets primarily. Sweden had about a 4% conversion uplift from variation B. But when we segmented this and looked on South Korea, which is also a huge market for Baby Shop, it actually didn't outperform at all, but the quick shop won. So kind of the browsing behaviors between different markets and different countries hugely varies. So I definitely suggest that if you're running tests on more markets, if you have the traffic to support it, definitely try to look at different markets for each specific test you're performing. And the last test, just because I want to show kind of the depth of what you can A/B test. Now, this is actually a running test now, so we don't have a finalized result. And Baby Shop is running this purely by themselves, but in SiteGainer. So what we're trying here is 2 different algorithms for product recommendations. So these 2 rows on the left is Nosto. Some of you may know it. Their recommendations are automated, built on an algorithm. And then at the bottom, we have the Baby Shop's own algorithm that they built in-house. And basically, we're looking at this product, the sweater on the right, and then the recommendations are on the left. Now, this is kind of a hard one to guess just from seeing these few products. So I'm not going to ask you to actually guess this one. You'll have to keep that one. But I'll tell you this much. One of them is looking really promising compared to the other one. And in a room of 60, your guesses probably wouldn't have been correct. We got to look at millions of data points to actually get an answer for what works best here. But I'd be happy to talk more about this test after. Moving on. Those were some specific tests, and I think it kind of proves my point as well. Like in this room, we are probably better than the average person at guessing what actually works. We all work at a decently high level within e-commerce or in some way, shape, or form a digital product. So I think if I may bang my own drum, I think my guesses are better than like at least 80% of the population that don't work with e-commerce. But still, we guess wrong all the time. Not even, I think we're probably below the 70% threshold in this room on these 3 tests that we showed now. So what that brings us to is where we are now with Baby Shop. Now we're at the first year of working together. So currently we're running about 5 tests per month. This is averaged since the change of the year. So I'd say today we're probably doing more because Q1 we did fewer tests. But 5 tests per month on average. We have a win percentage or a win rate of 22.5%, which may sound low. Does it sound low to you? We lose 70, yeah, exactly. We lose 77.5% of the tests. losing is a very relative term, though. That means we avoided implementing something that would decrease our conversion rate or otherwise hurt the user experience in 77.5% of the times if we didn't test it. We're still doing other implementations that are not getting tested as well. So Booking.com has a 5% win rate on their tests, and they're doing 1,000 A/B tests a month-ish. So I wouldn't say it's that we're bad optimizers. We're still just actually testing stuff. That's the whole point. And we're spending quite a low amount of hours per test, 6 hours per test on average. And for my last slide, that's exactly what I want to focus on. So is this bad optimizing? 1 in 5-ish implementations actually increase conversion rate. For me, when we start out an A/B testing program, that's not at all our focus. That's a super secondary KPI. Everybody in the room definitely wants to increase their conversion rate. Absolutely. Everybody does. But to actually do that, I think we need to break it down into smaller KPIs that are actually measurable and something you can work towards on a weekly basis. And the first one, and the absolute most important one that we recommend to work with, if you're not running thousands of A/B tests already, is to optimize your test velocity. First order of business, do tests. Do a lot of them. Do boring tests. Don't test the new algorithm as your first test. Do simple stuff. Just get out a lot of tests. When you've done 50 tests, then you start looking at the next KPIs. What's our success rate? Can we increase that? The way you increase that is by doing better analysis, finding better tests, doing qualitative analysis, user tests, heat maps, visitor recordings, anything that you can think of to find better ideas that you can then test. But that's secondary. And the third one, of course, if we're spending hundreds and hundreds of hours per test, that's something we have to optimize. So 6 hours per test, I'd say that's pretty low. If you're doing the same rate, be happy. And the goals for Baby Shop for next year, for 2020, I hope we can exceed these. I don't think at all it's impossible with the traffic numbers and the data we're working with and the resources available. But to set a goal, we're going to from 5 tests a month to 10 tests a month. The success rate is basically our goal here is to just maintain the same success rate. Don't get worse test results, basically. If we can increase it, nobody's more happy than I am. But I think maintaining the same level is good enough. And the same for invested resources. Maintain 6 hours per test. It always depends on kind of how good your tests are. It may or may not be valuable to spend 40 hours on a test. For the algorithm test, they probably spent way more than 6 hours. And that could be really, really, really impactful if it turns out well. And I think that's it. And one thing I want to mention, if you have any questions now, we're going to do the panel discussion in about 30 minutes, or it's going to be a break before, but after the break, we're going to do the panel discussion. So if you have any questions about anything I said or tests in particular, I mean, some data is obviously sensitive, but feel free to, like, this is not a monologue. We're supposed to be communicating during the panel discussion. So feel free to ask anything. Thank you. Oh, and Sarah from TrustPilot is about to go up, by the way. Welcome, Sarah. Huge applause.
Well, so I'm a little lower than the rest. Hope you can see me out there. But so today we're talking about trust. I thank Lucas and Jonas for the amazing presentation, so that your attention is still high and you can follow me. So I'm Sarah. I am from TrustPilot. I'm partner manager there for the Nordics. So I work with media agencies and people like they've just spoken right now. So why are we talking about trust today? We've been hearing a lot about data, AdWords strategy, A/B testing, technology. Trust sounds a little bit fluffy, doesn't it? So I'm just gonna give you a quick example of how trust is not fluffy at all. So it's a personal example. I had the need of buying some shampoo, and at some point in my social profiles, a lot of ads popped up about this personalized, customizable conditioner and shampoo. So I was like, okay, this might be interesting. Let's evaluate. A BuzzFeed article comes right after that, and a journalist gives a great account of the product. And I'm just like, okay, now I'm interested. I'm going in the site. I'm browsing, I'm playing. price is quite steep. I go to customer reviews. I start reading about the company from other customers like me. And you know what I find out? Product quality is really low. Refunds are terrible. Returns impossible. And there you go. I discard the company. I walk away. So what does it mean then? I trusted the company because a source was telling me maybe this is good. And then a more valuable source started telling me the contrary. So you see, I didn't trust the company anymore. So basically, if we want to just translate it into business terms, trust really translates into my propensity to pick a company over another one, my propensity to buy from a company over another one, my propensity to be loyal to that company over another one. So if we move forward, then we know and we can see how trust becomes even more important today. We went through an era where, retail was the only option. People were forced to go to the shop around the corner, and they were serviced personally by a clerk, nothing better. Then the internet came around, shoppers started having more choice, but at what cost? The experience was, horrible, right? 10 days delivery, poor customer service. Does anybody remember that? And then the customer era comes along. Now customers have the best of both worlds, have the greatest possible choice, and have the opportunity of having the best possible experience. So you see, this is the panorama, the landscape where we're at. Per gave us a little bit of a hint into this, right? Customers are growing to be super demanding. They're peaky, demanding monsters, right? And if you are online shoppers yourself, you know how easy it is to go online, search for a brand, and comparing companies servicing that brand over price, shipping costs, delivery time, everything basically. So what does it mean really for us, right? Here we have a few boring examples. I know, Netflix, Uber, Amazon, you've seen this before. But what do these companies are doing? What are these companies doing? These companies are coming into a very static, old, highly regulated market, and they're disrupting it by delivering a super customized experience, super tailored to the customer, and they're ready all the time, available. So really, customers are more empowered. They just have the choice. They can get it, whatever they like. So they start switching. They start switching for the better choice. And at that point, who can't keep up is simply outdated. So one other thing that we love to do and that the internet has made so much more powerful today is talk. We all love talking. When's the last time you've had whatever experience, better or good, and you wanted to tell everyone? Well, that's exactly what we have here in the slide, right? We have a very famous company showing how an amazing an amazing breakfast they can offer. And then on the other side, you have real customer actually telling whomever is searching for this company that breakfast wasn't that great. So really what we can sort of take from this is that, well, it's not the brand telling itself what the brand is about. It's the other consumers telling that brand what that company is about. So I want to play a little game here. And I know you've guessed a few other things today, but let's guess this one. Here, I'm going to show in a few seconds the percentage of how many people in Sweden trust businesses. So if you raise up your hands, do you think this number is going to be lower than 50%? Anybody? Oh, wow. Well, you're right. That's 47%. Yeah, so you know this very well, right? This is shocking. This means that more than 1 out of 2 people in Sweden don't trust businesses, don't trust what they're communicating, don't trust their message, don't trust their advertising. They just don't trust it. So what are they doing? I mean, they have to buy, they have a need, they have an intent. Well, internet gives them the power to source for information, and they use as many as you see here. You can look at your own experience, try to think about a company you've never bought before. How many of these sources of information would you actually take? In my own experience, consumers would take mostly, like probably 50% or more of this. And it's not just about reviews, it's about like the whole experience, the whole journey. So if we're wrapping up a second here, we're saying that the landscape is becoming very uncertain, that customers are becoming more demanding, more picky, and they have such a powerful source of information at their hand. How do we stand out? That's the question, right? I want to go back a second to my example, right? So the company managed to stand out, but what was missing there was an important point, right? Well, the important point was a reassurance from customers telling me my choice was good. I was going to have a great experience. At TrustPilot or anybody on anywhere else in the business, you would call this social proof. Social proof takes you by the hand and tells you what other people are doing. They're giving you an interpretation of the world that maybe you don't have yet. And social proof can take many forms, can be likes, can be comments, can be posts, can be trust badges. At TrustPilot, it's just one thing, stars. But what does it mean for us? When I talk to my partners, I refer to stars as coins, just as a currency. It just means basically that we have something in our hands, very good, that we can spend. Spend where? Across our customer journey. Because basically stars are driving our customers from one phase to another one, to another one, to another one, till they buy from us. They're loyal to us. They are our advocates. How do we do it? I'm going to show you a few examples. Here we have an stylized example of AdWords campaigns. Jonas has talked extensively about this. Thanks, Jonas. But what do we do with stars in this case? Well, in this case, we position stars in the AdWords campaigns. Actually, it's not us, it's Google. And what does it mean for a company? Well, basically here, the customer is showing an intent. Customer is searching, wants to buy something, and is starting to find companies, starting to find products, brands, and starts comparing companies and brands. So basically, the stars here just are already telling the customer before the customer gets to the website that you are trustworthy, that you're reliable, that you can deliver what you're promising in that ad. So what can happen there? Well, that can happen that as much as 10% more of your traffic could click on that ad, get on your website. That means 10% more people coming into your website. But Google is not just the only way we search for products. Social media have become a huge platform for us to, well, discover needs that we didn't have before and search for products, companies, and actually start taking purchasing decisions right there. So in this case, we have also a visual representation, right? This looks like the ad from McDonald's we showed before. So in this case, this banner, this looks even more unrealistic to people. That's just because it's just like TV ads, right? So what Flupenge did here is putting the TrustPilot badge on it, trying to give that trustworthy kick right there. Don't look elsewhere. We are what you need. That's what it's saying. And these trust signs in these campaigns, well, besides the visibility, the reach, the CTRs, what gives to Flupenge is as much as 400% more registration on site. So we're finally on site. What am I going to say here that Lucas hasn't said yet. Well, here's an example of how Yolirum presents our widgets into their homepage. And of course, there are so many things that affect conversion rate. We've just said it, right? But how bad can it be? So first of all, we need a badge there because if we displayed stars on our search, well, a customer needs to find out what those stars were related. Are those stars related to a company that tells itself how good I am looking at the mirror? No, these stars needs to be related to a source, a third-party source, trusted party source that is showing what consumers think. And also, well, I mean, placed smartly, this widget can actually have an impact on conversion. But what does it really mean for a company to have widgets like this on the site? To me, it's just like proud stamp. You're basically just showing your potential customers how good of a job you are already doing with your existing ones. What better publicity of this? Your customers that tell your potential customer, you're amazing. That's just bringing them hand in hand to the cart. And then finally, it's not really customer journey related, this slide, but I also wanted to show you a little bit more like wider perspective on this. Trust doesn't really matter only for your consumers, for your customers, sometimes really matter for your investors. This is Boost having their TrustPilot and NPS scores into their annual report. They're actually showing it to their investors as a badge of reliability. So we've done the first part, right? So possibly we've finally managed to get the customer to buy. But if you guys have had any business 101 type of formation, education, you know that getting or conquering a new customer costs a lot more than just retaining the ones that you already have. But retention is difficult, right? You have to be always in the mind of your customers. You have to create always different needs. They have to remember you by. And how to do that really in such a high competition landscape? Well, first of all, a suggestion for you. Start listening to them. Start caring about them. Start showing them that they matter for you. And this is just, what we would like, what customers would like, that they are taken into consideration in your plans. How to do it? Well, you could start from TrustPilot. TrustPilot is a platform and open platform. Our mission is to bring people together. From one side, we have the consumers that would like to express their opinion, and the other side, it's you guys, the companies that would like to know what these consumers are talking about. And historically, there's never been really a connection, right? So TrustPilot, our mission is to manage this connection, integrate this connection, make it stronger, create that virtuous cycle that makes your company learn from your own customers. So I'm going to show you a few examples of how our customers are doing and how our account managers are trying and helping them on doing this. Here is an example of Jetpack. Say hi, Tina, in the crowd. Tina is going to be with us later at the panel discussion, so I'm going to give you a hint, but please ask her when the chance gets there. Jetpack is basically taking care and responding promptly to every single negative review that they receive. Why? Because in there's an unsatisfied customer that is just waiting to become a satisfied and loyal customer. Think of your own experience. So you've bought a trip, you bought a gift, you bought something for yourself, and then something went wrong. Parcel didn't get delivered, or the location wasn't what you expected, whatever that is. And then you reach out to the company, of course, complaining that something went wrong. And most times you really don't expect the company to pick up, right? You just want to complain, that's it, you want to get it out. But if the company replies actually and solves your problem promptly, what happens there? you're extremely satisfied. Now your expectation that were just basic to promise have just gone up. You're finally happy. You're happier than you were before. So you become loyal to that company. You're never going to leave it. You know that if something happens, the company is going to be there for you, be by your side. Another example is from this Danish business. It's called Aventure. You might know it. They sell sport clothing. And in the case studies we've done with them, Lars, the CEO, reads each and every single review they get by himself. And they get a lot, by the way. You know why? Easy. In the reviews, as we said, there are your consumers talking to you openly, freely. That's where you get the data that are going to be needed for you to understand where your consumers are going and keep innovating in their regards. Also, by the way, a positive review, it's not just a positive review. It might add elements of minor mistakes that weren't important for the customer today, but maybe you're delivering one day later, today and tomorrow and the day after, and you didn't notice, and then it becomes a problem, and then you're outdated, you're out of the market. Another example. I'm Italian, so I needed to do this play on this one, so I'm sorry. And so I have to present you with the case of Giglio. They sell high-end fashion. They're from Sicily, and by approaching scaling with a data-driven decision, we've been at their offices. They have stats for everything, really. And using this approach, they have become a multinational company from a corner shop in Palermo, in Sicily. So what they're doing here is even one step further. Lars was reading reviews one by one. These guys are using APIs to understand what their customers are saying, knowing their customers. Probably a lot of you here are marketeers, and they're facing a huge struggle, knowing who your customers are, segment them, know where to reach them, know what they want next. Well, when the customers are speaking to you, that's when they're saying it to you, what they want, what they need, what they're missing. And Giglio is doing just that. He's taking that data and is refunneling into the business by reaching customers with retargeting, email campaign, right content at the right time to the right people. It's amazing. And finally, I wanted to open like a little bit of a parenthesis on Summers. It's a UK brand. They sell lingerie online. And the focus here is not anymore company reviews. It's what we call product reviews. Product reviews in this case are helping Hans Summers understanding what the standard quality of their products are and kicking off what it's not up to standards. So what the customer thinks doesn't perform to what the standard of Hans Summers is, and Summers is not supplying anymore. What do you think does that mean for a company? That means that customers know for sure that they can come to your shop and buy high quality products all the time. So we're gone through the journey. I'm actually quite a little bit late, so I'm gonna try to wrap it up here. But we've gone through the journey. We've seen how people move, and we've seen that probably it's not this linear, right? Customers are probably jumping from one phase to another, having hundreds of touch points. But if there's really something that I would like you guys to keep with you today, is that when a customer journey for somebody ends, well, somebody else's customer journey starts, because reviews can help you do that. Reviews can help you understand what your consumer needs. Reviews can help you gather data and improve your business. Reviews can help you build trust for your business and for your company. And to just have you going away with a strong message, just remember, a brand is not anymore what you're saying it is to your customers, but what the customers are saying to each other when you're not looking. So a provocative question. Do you know what your customers are saying about you? Maybe, maybe not. Start from TrustPilot. It's a good place to start. Go in there, check your company, create your free profile, claim your 4 weeks free trial. We're going to deliver to everybody here today. And if you have questions, Nina and Adi over there, Nina and Adi say hi. Reach us at the break or afterwards. Well, do not hesitate to talk to us. And I think I'm done. And Jonas, we have a QR code for bonus content, I think, right?
Yes. So thank you very much, Sarah.
Yes. Should I show this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So for all of you who are live on YouTube, please use this QR code. And in the end of the survey, take you like 3 minutes. You will have all the bonus content, so a lot of interesting reports from you. And I think it was great about the bad review, how you handle that. And I know you have a
Thanks.
great report on that.
Yes.
Give us some insights on what you want us to talk about the next time. And for all of you who are here at Google, we're going to take a coffee break now. And we will then, after the short break, we will get on with a really interesting panel discussion together with Jetpack, Baby Shop, and Free. With that, thank you very much.